A single waterway, 130 kilometers wide, holds the fate of the global economy. If conflict erupts across the Taiwan Strait, economists estimate the world would lose $10 trillion, 10% of global GDP. That is twice the economic impact of COVID-19 combined with the 2008 financial crisis. Why is this narrow strait suddenly the most dangerous flashpoint on Earth? The answer begins in 1949 with one of history's greatest heists. In the next 15 minutes, we will explore how a civil war 75 years ago created today's crisis, why Taiwan's identity has shifted so dramatically, and why the world's most advanced technology has become both a shield and a target.
Today, the Taiwan Strait is a theater of daily confrontation. In 2024, Chinese military aircraft crossed into Taiwan's air defense identification zone an average of 11.6 times per day, a dramatic increase from just one sortie per day in 2020. Meanwhile, a digital war is raging. Taiwan's National Security Bureau reports an average of 2.4 million cyber attacks per day. Attacks on the telecommunications sector increased by 650% in 2024, while the energy sector saw a tenfold spike in 2025. Yet Taiwan remains defiant. 23 million people live in what Beijing calls a renegade province, but what functions as an independent state with its own government, military, currency, and democratic elections. The stakes are unprecedented. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company produces 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips. A conflict would trigger global industrial paralysis. Bloomberg Economics estimates $10 trillion in losses, with the United States losing 6.7% of GDP and China losing 16.7%. But to understand this crisis, we must go back to 1949, to a moment of desperation and one of the greatest financial heists in modern history.
By 1949, the Chinese communists were winning the civil war. The nationalist forces faced total collapse. Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek orchestrated a mass exodus to Taiwan. Approximately 2 million soldiers, bureaucrats and refugees fled across the strait. But Chiang took something else: China's national treasure. Between late 1948 and 1949, approximately 113.6 to 115.2 tons of gold were transported from Shanghai to Taipei. The gold was sewn into military jacket linings and loaded onto naval vessels under cover of darkness. This gold represented the vast majority of the Republic of China's foreign exchange reserves. The mainland was left financially devastated, facing hyperinflation. Meanwhile, this wealth became Taiwan's salvation. The gold provided backing for the new Taiwan dollar in June 1949, crushing hyperinflation and stabilizing the economy. Without this heist, the Republic of China government on Taiwan would likely have collapsed within years. For 2 decades, both governments claimed to be the legitimate ruler of all of China. But in October 1971, the UN General Assembly passed Resolution 2758, recognizing the People's Republic of China and expelling Taiwan. Taiwan lost its UN seat, and virtually all countries switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing. Beijing interprets this resolution as proof that Taiwan is part of the PRC. However, recent scholarship challenges this. The resolution does not mention Taiwan or address the island's territorial status. In 2024 and 2025, parliaments in Australia, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and the European Parliament rejected Beijing's interpretation, affirming the resolution does not establish PRC sovereignty over Taiwan. In 1987, Taiwan lifted martial law after nearly 4 decades. This unleashed democratic transformation. In 1996, Taiwan held its first direct presidential election. This democratization created a structural barrier to unification. Any deal with China now requires consent from a population that deeply values democratic freedoms. More fundamentally, it accelerated a profound shift in identity.
Since 1992, National Chengchi University has tracked how Taiwanese identify themselves. In 1992, only 17.6% identified solely as Taiwanese. By 2024, 63.4% identify exclusively as Taiwanese. Only 2.4% identify solely as Chinese. This is not temporary. It is generational transformation. Young Taiwanese view China not as a motherland, but as a foreign neighbor. They did not experience the Civil War. Their lived reality is Taiwan as a separate, democratic society. Beijing offered Taiwan the Hong Kong model, one country, two systems. But after Beijing's crackdown in Hong Kong in 2019, this offer became politically toxic. Support collapsed to near zero. The current administration under President Lai Ching-te rejects the 1992 consensus entirely. Taiwan's legislative yuan is now controlled by opposition parties who block defense budgets, creating internal paralysis that Beijing exploits. Taiwan has constructed another shield: silicon. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company is the most strategically critical company on Earth. TSMC produces 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. In the fourth quarter of 2025, advanced nodes accounted for 77% of total wafer revenue. These chips power NVIDIA's AI processors, Apple's devices, and advanced weapons systems. This creates the Silicon Shield. The world's dependence on TSMC makes attacking Taiwan economically irrational, guaranteeing mutual economic destruction worth $10 trillion. But this shield has vulnerabilities. The United States is incentivizing TSMC to build fabs in Arizona with $65 billion in investment. Japan and Germany are doing the same. This onshoring creates anxiety in Taiwan about hollowing out. If the West can produce advanced chips domestically, does the strategic incentive to defend Taiwan diminish?
China is racing towards semiconductor self-sufficiency. While currently behind, Beijing is investing heavily. If China achieves autarky, the economic cost of destroying Taiwan's fabs decreases. Unable to attack TSMC directly, Beijing uses economic coercion targeting politically sensitive sectors. In 2021 and 2022, China banned Taiwanese agricultural products. In September 2024, Beijing suspended tariff exemptions on 34 products. This strategy aims to hollow out support for Taiwan's government while avoiding full trade war. Let me address 2 persistent myths. First, that Taiwan has always been part of China. Taiwan was inhabited by Austronesian indigenous peoples for millennia. The Qing dynasty controlled parts of Taiwan for just over 200 years. Then Japan ruled Taiwan for 50 years, from 1895 to 1945. The People's Republic of China, founded in 1949, has never ruled Taiwan for a single day. Second, that most Taiwanese want independence. Polls show 60 to 80% prefer the status quo. They do not want formal independence or reunification. Why? Fear. Declaring independence would trigger China's anti-secession law authorizing military force. They already have independence in practice. Declaring it formally would provoke war. So why is conflict increasingly likely? Because Beijing believes time is not on its side.
For decades, an unofficial median line ran down the Taiwan Strait, but in August 2022, following Nancy Pelosi's visit, Beijing declared this line no longer exists. The escalation is dramatic. In 2020, the PLA conducted 380 sorties into Taiwan's ADIZ, one per day. By 2024, over 2,000 sorties, 11.6 per day. These incursions exhaust Taiwan's air force, normalize PLA presence, and collect intelligence. In cyberspace, Taiwan faced 2.4 million attacks per day in 2024, doubling from the previous year. Attacks on telecommunications grew 650%. The energy sector saw a tenfold increase. This is not random hacking. Chinese military hackers are mapping networks and planting malware that could paralyze Taiwan's power grid, hospitals, and command systems at conflict onset. Beijing also wields law as a weapon. The anti-secession law from 2005 authorizes non-peaceful means if Taiwan moves toward independence. In June 2024, Beijing issued judicial interpretation imposing death penalty for Taiwan independent separatists, extending PRC law extraterritorially. U.S. intelligence frequently cites 2027 as critical. President Xi Jinping has instructed the PLA to have capability to invade Taiwan by 2027, the PLA centennial. This is capability, not intent. But it means the military option becomes credible, useful for coercion, even without war. From Beijing's perspective, time is running out. Every year, Taiwan's distinct identity solidifies. The generation identifying as Chinese is dying. Demographic trends suggest voluntary reunification will be impossible within decades.
Simultaneously, the U.S. and allies are strengthening defenses. This brings us to the first island chain, a geographic arc from Japan through Taiwan to the Philippines. Taiwan sits at the center. If China controlled Taiwan, Chinese submarines could break into the Pacific, threatening Guam and Hawaii without Japanese or Philippine detection. This is why, beyond semiconductors, the U.S. views Taiwan as indispensable. Losing Taiwan would shatter the first island chain. The U.S. has expanded military agreements with the Philippines, placing bases 250 miles from Taiwan. Japan stated a Taiwan contingency is a survival-threatening situation, enabling self-defense forces intervention. But how would war unfold? A full amphibious invasion would be extraordinarily difficult. Taiwan has few suitable beaches, mountain fortifications, and the strait becomes a kill zone. The PLA has overwhelming superiority, but casualties could be catastrophic. China has another option: blockade. In October 2024, joint sword exercises simulated quarantine of Taiwan's key ports, Kaohsiung and Keelung, targeting energy import routes. Taiwan imports 97% of its energy. A blockade could strangle the economy within weeks without firing a shot. By using the Coast Guard prominently, China can frame blockade as domestic law enforcement rather than war. This legal fiction complicates international response. Would the U.S. go to war to break a Chinese customs operation? The ambiguity is the weapon.
Since 1979, U.S. policy has rested on strategic ambiguity. The Taiwan Relations Act requires providing defensive weapons, but does not commit to military defense. This deters Beijing from invading while deterring Taipei from declaring independence. However, President Biden has repeatedly tested this ambiguity. On 4 occasions since 2021, he stated US forces would defend Taiwan. Each time, officials walked back the comment. But the cumulative effect is unmistakable, a shift towards strategic clarity. More importantly, the US is building collective deterrence. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the Philippines expanded to include bases in northern Luzon, just 250 miles from Taiwan. Japan made clear a Taiwan contingency would enable self-defense forces engagement. This is the first island chain becoming defensive architecture. The US and Taiwan signed the initiative on 21st Century Trade in June 2023. While not a free trade agreement, it creates regulatory framework integrating Taiwan deeper into the US economic sphere, countering Beijing's marginalization strategy.